And we are alive. We're alive. We're alive. We're alive. We're alive. We're alive. I am super white glowy. Whoomp. Don't know what's going on with this lighting. I'm just ethereal from the ether. I am a spirit of the undead. Wah, wah, wah. So we're back. We're live. It's me. It's Cris. We're here. We're back. Hello. Hello out there into the YouTube ether. How is everybody? How is everybody doing? Oh, we got people in the comment section. Fabulous.
Yay.
People know we're alive.
We were not the best at advertising this time. So I am really glad you guys are here.
I tried to advertise and everything like froze up. And I was like, the Google Hangout was going like, eat. And I was like, no, just no. So I hope you guys are really in a good place today. It's a Friday afternoon or evening, depending where you are in the world. It's probably much later than that if you're in Australia. But
was that the spinning world? The world.
Will spin me right around, the baby back around. Like a pizza, baby, I'm so hungry. Anyway, I'm hungry. I'm not eating today. No, I don't have any pizza. Although there may be because it's cheat day, so maybe there will be.
Oh, people are saying that the notification bell is not. Maybe is YouTube getting better at that now?
Wow.
Because before the notification would like never pop up.
Yeah, right. Well, that's awesome. That's awesome. Also, people are coming off somebody else's live, so we've totally piggybacked off the back of someone else's live.
Oh. Hey.
So how is everybody?
Twitch, and there was a rating party, and I didn't even know I was part of it. Yes.
Right. So laughter is going to be the theme, the topic, the witchy magic for the day. Cris and I were talking about doing this live, and the universe kind of like poked us into doing it as well, because there were some people were posting about this after we talked about doing it, and we were like, yeah, we need to chat about it. We need to glow bright whitely like the moon at you. This is going to be so off-putting. I might just like minimize myself so I can't see myself, because that's going to put me off. Right, I can no longer see myself.
Embrace the moon.
I can
Don't
no longer.
All moons have green lipstick?
If you say so.
Don't limit them, Joey.
They might. Is green lipstick an intergalactic thing now? Who knows? Let's say it is. So we're going to talk about that. I thought maybe we'd catch up with you guys a little bit first, though, if that's okay with everybody, because it's been a little while since we had a live. And I thought maybe we could just catch up with what we've been doing, where we've been. Cris and I are both kind of like a little bit fed up of YouTube right now. But we're both also heavily investing in other places. Patreon is one, and a big one. And I've been writing and putting stuff out, and it never seems to end. And the story is I'm feeling very into autumn right now. And so there's been a lot of autumn.
Yes, practical magic references for the win.
Right, perfect. Yes. And moving into the Halloween stuff for the store. And it's always like crazy, busy. And people have been doing consults with me and ritual for hire with me. And it's been a fun time. More than K writing You've Done book. I mean, the book is released and you can buy the book right now, but I am still writing. Yes. I just released an essay for House of Twigs, which was all about Persephone and the underworld. There are many different tiers on Patreon, and some are more affordable than others. There's a $5 tier, a $10 tier. These are both super affordable, and you get loads of content. Really, because I'm a Virgo and I can't help it. I just dump content all over your face. It's like, I have some content.
One time she outlined it for me, and I was like, Joey, when are you sleeping?
I don't sleep.
Really?
I don't sleep.
Yeah.
I'm just constantly doing and creating and doing something because Virgo has all the tabs open in her brain at all times. Go, go, go.
It's true. I've seen it. I've seen her switch between them.
It's a scary, scary thing. Dump it on our faces. Yes. Take it. Take the content. That sounded sexual as fuck. Anyway.
I would also like to address, because Jezebel said, oh no, don't go off of YouTube. Patreon is for peeps with money. Actually, Patreon is also a place where you can have public posts as well. That's a misconception.
Yes.
So, just
I do that
clarify.
too. Yes, sometimes I will put free stuff out on Patreon because you can make it public. So there's that too. But yes. What have you been up to, Cris? Tell the world what you've been dumping all over people's faces.
Thanks for that, Molly. For those watching later, Molly just said that in all caps.
Well, I think they can actually see the chat now when the video is like,
yes, that's right. That's right. That's so good. Finally. Good. Okay. Anyway. Well, let's see. Last time I was on here, I was talking about how I had been MIA for a while because of my husband's health and everything. And I was just trying to catch back up to things and, you know, like deadline racing and whatnots. As per usual, I'm still doing the podcast with Joey. That's still a monthly thing that I'm doing. So I've been doing a lot of that. I have been working on my Patreon as well. And you know, kind of rearranging things and working on that. I've also been working on some different packaging and services things behind the scenes. This month is my dad's birthday month, so that's a thing that I'm also like, you know, grief process is happening. So I'm also kind of dealing with that, working through that. It's fall, so I'm excited about that. Well, it's almost fall, you know. And I know like people have been asking me for some videos on hell, and I've got some of that stuff in the wings. I'm doing a lot of things behind the scenes. So basically what's happening is like
she's getting ready to dump it all over your face.
Yeah, that. I mean,
it's going to be one big load.
I don't know if that would have been my launch tagline, but
it is now.
But yeah, I'm being a Cappy that I am, and I'm like working behind the scenes and doing stuff. So you might not see me as much, but I am hoping now that you're going to see me a lot more on like my Instagram and my Facebook, a lot more active, and doing lives now that I'm kind of caught up with deadline stuff. So yeah, it's working. It's working out. I'm excited about a lot of the stuff I do have coming up. I mean, because if I wasn't, then why the fuck would I do it? So.
also, no lie, Tara. It did technically become fall on September 1st. No lie.
It did.
Truth.
It did. I believe this. I'm down with that. It can be longer fall. Let's do this.
To be honest, it felt like fall here in Scotland. It might not in other places in the world, but it felt fallish here. So.
Gabby says it's the first time she's been able to catch us in a live together.
Hello to everybody who is catching us live. I apologize that I'm a glowing ball of moonshine right now. I don't know what's going on with it. I'm like,
don't apologize for your shine.
I'm not apologizing for that. I'm apologizing for this ghost face that's happening right now. It's creepy as well. Maybe that's in theme. So yes,
yeah. Go ahead.
So
it's your channel.
There is a lot of really great stuff coming out very soon from both Cris and I. I also launched some audio courses recently. You can get one right now, which is Morrigan and Sacrifice. I'm getting ready to launch another one, which is a big one. It's a big one. But I've got 2 videos left to record for it, which will be exclusive to the course. And it's all about bone and dirt, ladies and gentlemen. So that is coming soon. But I think now is the time to rein it in, focus, breathe deeply, and be deadly serious.
Let's put on our serious face. Hold on.
For the topic of laughter. Laughter in witchcraft. Dramatic pausing.
Indeed.
Are you ready for more? Are you enthralled yet? No? Well, wait. Because glowing moon face.
Oh, wait.
Glowing moon face is going to keep you glued to the scary thing that's happening to this face. You can't look away from it, and it's magic. Nya, nya, nya. The end. That's it. That's the live. Bye. See you guys later.
Bye, guys. No. That was short-lived. No, we're talking about laughter. We're talking about laughter within practice. We're talking about the energy of laughter. What are some of the advantages and disadvantages around it? How you can use it. Like, just laughter in general. Because I feel like it's a topic people don't talk on that much, right?
It's something we need right now, like, so badly.
Oh, yeah.
Well, like, Cris and I were talking about just how much, like, outrage there is right now, how much, like aggressiveness is happening. And we're like, you know what we need to talk about? Having a sense of humor. Quick stat now.
I need to clarify, having a sense of humor doesn't mean that you don't care about something.
Absolutely
Just
not.
to, like, say that right out.
We're not either or people on this channel, or your channel, or both of our channels, or the joint channel, or whatever it is at this point.
Is it just a conglomeration now? I'm assuming it's just kind of a big
splooge of togetherness. Yeah.
Splooge of togetherness.
Well, Molly started it off with dumping shit on all over our faces.
We're in it. Let's go. Yes. Yeah. But basically, yeah, it's been a very
heavy.
Yeah, heavy or just in your face in a lot of ways. Whether you want it or not, right?
Yeah, not in a good way.
Yeah, so I don't know. I was talking with Joey the other day, and I don't remember what we were talking about, but I was like, you know, we should do something on that. I think it was a run-on from a video that I had done, and it was a thought I had, and I was like, you know, that would be a good live. So, yes. And then we thought about, like, what had been going on lately with the vibes and shit, and we were like, yeah, let's do live about that. So here we are. We haven't had one in a while, actually. I think the last one we had, we revealed Joey's DNA on my channel.
Yeah.
Yep. Which was maybe a month ago.
Probably more than a month ago now.
It's been a little bit. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so laughter.
As medicine, as magic.
As medicine, yes. As magic, as I guess you could call it spell work in a sense.
Yeah, and we're going to be covering like the different types of what laughter can be used for, and like why that matters and how that comes into spiritual practice. So I think a good starting point is, for me, like, a lot of emotions are the fuel for magic. I think that magic without emotion is kind of a non-starter for me. Like, if you don't have the emotional drive behind the magic, it's not going to be as strong. I'm not going to say it won't work, because we can make things manifest. But when you truly have that emotional surge behind spell work, witchcraft, then it really influences change around you, because you are releasing all of that energy that's within you, and it creates real change. It creates waves. Have you ever been in a room with somebody who was giggling so hard at a joke that you just ended up laughing? That's being affected by the pure strength of their emotion. Or there are people who are like really, really sad and down and depressed, and they're kind of like a black hole almost, because they feel so caught up in that emotion, and you can feel it and you can get into that frame of mind too. There's a connection there, a spiritual ecosystem connection, even, that we can feel the vibrations that each of us are feeling and putting out into the world. It's not the same thing as being described as empathic, but it is definitely being influenced and being affected by the emotions that other people are feeling and presenting as well, because laughter is a very visceral, very present kind of emotion, and it gives sound and vibration and like real physical incarnation in a way to an emotion which is perhaps quite unique in its expression, because other than maybe shouting or screaming, which has the same sort of power but in a very different way, laughter is definitely very, very visceral, very, very powerful, and it's not mistakable either.
Yeah. I really love how my favorite laughs are when they're just like wide open, right? They like bubble up out of nowhere, and there's this element of like I'm trying to hold it back but I just can't, and finally like it breaks free and it's like you see them. You know what I mean? Like there's like an abandonment in it that is beautiful, and it's really empowering. And I think that that's a medicine in laughter that often gets overlooked. I mean, we look at comedians, and a lot of these comedians are speaking on really, really important topics. And they are able to get through with laughter. It's their medicine. I mean, my mother's motto growing up was "We laugh to survive." She was a nurse, and there is a such thing as a nursing humor. And it tends to be kind of dark. And it's because in those situations, it can be so heavy that we have to laugh. We have to find something to laugh to be able to go through it. And I was thinking about that. And there's also a sense of kind of like having that sense of humor with ourselves, right? Because there are days where we are so maybe critical of ourselves or hypercritical, or the world is critical. It's important to find those moments of dark humor where like you laugh. Like,
yep.
How many of us have been like, of course I dropped that bowl because I've dropped a bunch of other things earlier today. Like that's us instinctively trying to like find that lining in it. Yeah.
I think it's interesting because laughter or comedy basically acts as a balm for the social pains of the day. I was just writing that down as you were.
Well, you were telling me something when we were first bringing this up about the history of jesters that I think would be really important to know.
Yeah, I've got that down for the next point. Yeah.
Okay.
So the history of the identification of the fool is often someone that was present in courts, royal courts, usually. It's a quintessentially European thing, as far as I know. But the fool was somebody who had the ear of the king or queen. And they often presented a lot of what they were doing in terms of comedy, ridicule, satire, but they were often the most educated person at court, and they could influence the direction of the king or queen's policies. So they could actually have a real amount of power, but they had to walk a line between knowing that they had that influence and being able to influence the king or queen. But if they were trying too heavy, if they were becoming too serious, if they were not entertaining at the same time, then they would be at risk of losing their head. And in a lot of cases, you know, you could be beheaded for not being amusing enough to the king or the queen. So you had to also be tailoring your humor to them. You had to be entertaining as well. And actually at Christmas time, they had a day where everything was topsy-turvy, and like the fool would be king and the king would be the fool, and they turned like social expectations on their head, and then they would have the jester would be making out like he was king, and he would be making ridiculous dictations for the day that weren't, you know, they weren't like put into law or anything, but it was meant to be comedy. And the king or queen, or sometimes that they would play the fool, usually in kings it was an excuse to like flirt with pretty women, and like they needed an excuse, but still. But there was definitely that day of turning everything on its head, and that in itself was supposed to be about perception and power and playing with it, and just for one day or so many hours out of the day. And royal court is something that really fascinated me as a historian, because it's basically something that doesn't really exist anymore. And royal court was it's not like a judicial court or anything like that. It was basically the gathering of nobles. It was people would be socially interacting. There would be food, there would be entertainment, there would be policies going on. It was often described as like political intrigue, like backstabbing. It was a very dangerous place to be, especially given that back in that time you ended up on the wrong side of the king. you're dead. You lose your life. Your family loses their life, etc. But it was a very interesting kind of noble, at least for the nobles. It would have been a very interesting examination of human interaction and how like those games between individuals and power and money and all that sort of thing got played out. But at the heart of that would then be that humor, that fool who could influence the king in a lot of ways. And quite often he was the only one who would get away with satire at the king's expense. So it kind of was like a pressure valve for like the nobles and the king as well. And it would like, people would have a little bit of a laugh at it and that was the end of it. But again, you had to be very careful because if you ridiculed the king or queen in the wrong way or too harshly or too much, you're going to end up on the chopping block. So there's a very life or death thing with that humor, with that the role of the fool. And it really is a really interesting, fascinating read, especially across different time periods. The Tudors is the one that really stands out to me a lot of the time, but it goes back further than that. So there is an interesting history behind the power of laughter, because they would have real political power in that position of looking the fool. So it's very interesting.
Looking the fool, looking like they don't know anything, but then making jokes literally on their observations to prove they do know. You know, that's a very middle ground, medial spot.
It feels kind of Loki-ian as well. Like it has that kind of Loki trickster kind of vibe to it as well. And I think that's important to remember, like particularly in the Nordic stories with Loki especially. There's a lot of stories about him bringing laughter and foolery to situations which could otherwise be quite serious, like making Skadi laugh, and he was the only one that could do that. And then you were mentioning earlier about the giantess that wouldn't cry. So the interesting expression of emotions there, even in the mythology, is telling, because it stays with us in the stories that we keep telling each other. So not only is these people in history that were there to create laughter, but also document and kind of speak on behalf of people's concerns. But laughter and jokes and mythology has survived throughout time in mythology as well, and leaves an imprint on human souls. It's really interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting too, that even now that role kind of continues in a very similar way. I mean, comedians play that role. I mean, to entertain, it always is like kind of a balance of where your line is, because you can make observations that a lot of people can't. But if you are not in, if you don't know your audience, for instance, that can make or break you. Maybe it wasn't quite as serious as being beheaded on the spot, but it still has that kind of context. And that oftentimes there are some very, very intelligent people who are comedians, but they're seen as fools. They're seen as dumb. And I think there's a lesson in that about looking deeper too, which is something that's going around now. We're talking about like surface stuff a lot, appearance of things, and looking deeper and authenticity and etc. And I think that the fool is a good situation, or a good example of something like that, where it might serve you to look deeper into what is really being said. A good joke has a little truth in it. That's why we laugh, because there's a part of it that we relate to.
I think it's interesting to note the types of humor also that really speak to us as well. I think that, like, for me,
well, that's knowing your audience. Who is your audience?
But it also comes into knowing myself, I think, because, like, for me, a lot of the stupid humor, a lot of the like very physical humor, or the like humor at other people's expense, that makes me cringe to my bones. Like, and some people think it's hilarious when people are being punked or embarrassed for this, you know, for the sake of laughter for other people. I hate, I am like pulling my sleeves up because just thinking about it freaks me out. I hate it. It makes me very uncomfortable. Putting other people in a place where you're making them embarrassed and look stupid doesn't ring as funny to me. Whereas I like dark, sarcastic, ironic humor. Blackadder is the later series anyway of Blackadder was my bread and butter growing up. I loved that kind of humor. I love that kind of Black Books as well, for anyone who's seen Black Books. That kind of dark, wry humor is something that I really enjoy, and it's very dry and it's kind of witty as well. If there's witty thrown in there, I'm in.
Wait a minute. Are you saying the English woman likes dry humor? I'm shocked.
Excuse you. I am very little English. There's very little English in me. We did the DNA test last time. You know this by now. Goodness. Yes. But I've always done that. And like the embarrassing stuff, like I want to be careful with dark humor though, because some people excuse dark humor as stuff that I think is actually heinous. Like,
well, again, there's definitely a degree of truth within things too. So sometimes it's like, you know your audience, know the threshold. It's a balance, it's a wave, and you can definitely go over. And even in the other direction, we can use laughter to make something unimportant,
excuse something,
to invalidate it. Yeah. When it actually is something that we need to deal with. So it's definitely a moderation thing too. Like, basically. And
it can be dangerous thinking about it in those terms, because people can use humor to invalidate things which are actually important, which is kind of like the flip side of when people are getting offended by things and taking that too far. But people can also take the idea of humor and too far, and to the point where they're basically making jokes about things which is poor taste, is inflammatory, and it hurts people. So like racism is a good example, and then things that really bother individuals who've been through those situations. So for me in particular, anytime anyone tells a rape joke, I'm out. Like, I don't want to know you if that's who you are, because to me that is a heinous thing that you are making light of. And I know that that's been in the media recently because of James Gunn making pedophile jokes, and like there's this whole conversation around that like he lost his job because of all these comments he made some time ago on Twitter, I think, and like he'd apologized for them, and a lot of people like, it's a joke, it's humor, it's blah blah blah, but this is Hollywood and it's Disney, and it's like there is no way that Disney were going to give him his job back. Their primary market is kids and families, so there is no way. And people going on that they get, if we just well enough, he's going to get his job back. He's never going to get his job back.
In the same breath, how we can invalidate other people by it, right? It can be invalidating. It can also be used to empower. For instance, right now on America's Got Talent, for those of you who may be watching it or not, there is a comedian who has Tourette's, and he uses that for fuel in his comedy routine. And he is hilarious. But he's also respectful in the same sense. Like he's using it to educate, but in a funny way that makes it very relatable to people, instead of like a topic where they're afraid of offending anyone, or or vice versa about it. So it can actually be really empowering and really like opening to be used also. It's kind of open to it. Oh, Jennifer says my son has autism and he's hilarious. Oh yeah. And it can be used in a lot of ways. So one, I think what we're saying here is like challenge what that even means, first of all, because there's a lot of different shades of that, and that can be used in a lot of different ways, much like a lot of things within a magical practice. One can look at one can look at one herb, but there's a lot of versions of that herb, right? There's a lot of like subsects of it underneath, and all of those have different ways that you can use them in different situations and have completely different outcomes. So laughter is something that is really good for this. However, you have to know yourself in relation to it and what is kind of the thing that you get on best with, I guess, to say it that way. For me, one of my shutdowns is jokes at the expense of LGBTQ. I'm not doing that.
No.
Nope, that's it. Not cool with that. But yeah, so like it's.
I think for me, it's when people are trying to make humor out of belittling other people that's when it gets to me. It's like you can have like a fun, sarcastic exchange. You can talk in generalities. You can be humorous without degrading another human being, I think. And you can even go like sarcastic, dark, ironic humor without degrading people. And I think that's where it lies for me, really.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Go ahead. You had an arrow aimed. Go ahead.
Did. I was just going to say, I think what the really good thing to come off this part of the conversation is then talking about how we then harness that into magical practices then, because there are different ways to utilize laughter in terms of magic that are really powerful and really potent. So I thought we'd talk about some of those. I will say I don't like the prank jokes either. Like there was a guy who basically got shut down because he thought fake acid in the face pranks were funny, and he was basically terrifying women on the streets.
I am also a fan of sarcasm. Sarcasm and dark humor are also mine. I like because I grew up on horror movies, so like satirical bad B movie horror films. All that, that stuff where you're like, are they really serious right now?
Also, I really like when sarcasm is like two-way between two people, and it's kind of witty, and it's like a back and forth. Like that's sexy as fuck. Never mind just funny.
Well, that's another thing too. Is like, I have always searched for a sense of humor in my other half, whoever I'm with. Like, I always look for that, and I think. Yeah, exactly. Like terrible horror films. Yeah, the worse they are, the better they are. Okay? Clear. But that's another element too, is that like it can be very, very attractive. Because you know that this person is I don't know, it's very charming. It's very charming, and it's also something where it's like you feel like, you know, it's nice having them in like your aura, if you will. Like it's nice having them in your radius because you know that like you can joke with them and it'll be okay, you know? So it's definitely one of those like key things that I've looked for.
So then is it attraction magic? Is it love magic? Is it sex magic in a way? It's a sex magic all of its own? Because when a guy can like, okay, I consider myself to be fairly intelligent, and when a guy can do the back and forth banter wit thing with me, I'm like, I'm in. I'm just in. Take me. Yes.
Big words are also impressive to me. My husband used the words soliloquy and exponential casually in a conversation. One of the first times we talked, and I was like, married. Well, you're in. Let's go.
But that's the first kind of like magic that we've talked about without even really considering it. It's perhaps not as active as some of the other magic techniques we'll probably talk about, but it's definitely a thing. Like if someone can make you laugh and really engage with you, I think that makes them 100 times more attractive to you. Like I'd say that's probably a broad thing. I don't need somebody who is like humorous and fun all the time, but like just having that interplay is really interesting and really really sexy. So there's definitely an attraction magic that happens with laughter and humor and sharing. You share that. It's a shared bonding experience as well.
One of my favorite ways to use laughter, and it was one of the first that I kind of learned, my mother taught me. It's kind of like the foundational one, is protection.
Yep.
When someone says some shit to you, the act of literally laughing in their face is amazing. In terms of like energetic send back, like I'm rubber, you're glue bullshit, like it's amazing. And I don't even necessarily mean aggressively like, ha, bitch, like, but just like, do you know how easily that deflects? It's like, I am a mirror ball, meh, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, and now you are obsolete, bye. And you walk on. Like, it's an instant deflection of whatever the bad bullshit is they're sending. And of course I use bad in a very
broad sense.
Broad sense, yes. But it's a really good protection. And it's also something that you can feed things with. So a lot of my wards and things like that will be fed with laughter, with things like that, with jokes. And the more it happens, the stronger it gets. And so that's, it's powerful shit, basically.
Yeah, I was also taught to use laughter if you're having a lot of very aggressive spirit activity and you're feeling very uncomfortable. Then that feeling of dread comes in. If you can find a way to laugh at that, I was taught that that's super protective because it's basically shifting the energy within the space. And it's not giving, like, if there are entities that feed on like the fear element or like the dread element, then it takes some of the power away from that and gives you a protection energy within spirit work as well. So that was something I was taught quite early on. And that kind of feeds into something else, which is taking your power back, feeds into this, what we've been talking about, because laughter is a way to take your power back. And I'm going to give you guys an example. If you can laugh at yourself before other people laugh at you in a situation which is normally embarrassing to you, you totally control that situation and take your power back. So as a teenager, I was like on a bike in front of some other people.
We were both like this, I feel like.
Yeah. And the bike actually, the front tire snagged on something and I got jolted and thrown over the handlebars in front of a huge group of people. And like the temptation in front of all these people was to like cry, run away, like it hurt being thrown over the handlebars. But more than anything, I was hugely embarrassed. I was a teenager. These things definitely probably affect us even more as teens than they do today.
Yeah.
Instead, I hit the ground and I looked at the ridiculousness of it and I just cracked up laughing at myself. And so like everybody in their stunned silence, and then I like and then I just started laughing, and then that other people were laughing with me instead of at me. And it really does take the power back in that situation.
Yeah. Well, even as an adult, I had something like that happen. So at one of my old jobs, I manually unloaded trucks. So these are like 1,000-pound, 2,000-pound, like fucking big pallets coming off, and they're coming on kind of an incline at me, right? And I was pulling one out and I slipped. There was a puddle because it had been raining, so between the dock and the truck it had fallen onto the ramp, and I slipped and it was already barreling at me, right? Because I'm pulling it out, and I fell, and at the same time with one hand like flipped myself, and like I started laughing instantly. Now, everybody around me, and I will say, continue to say, when I fell, I had enough mind to like turn the jack handle that way. So it like turned as it rolled. So it went into a wall. But like it was about to come at me and they're all flipping out. Like everybody around me is like, oh my God, are you okay? And I am dying laughing. Like, because all I could see in my head was a reenactment with me of like Indiana Jones and the boulder. And just me like, get in the crevice, like, dive. So it was an instant reaction of like the absurdity of this. Nope, I'm done. This is hilarious. No, I'm fine. But this is, did you see that? I'm Indiana Jones now. That's what I am today. You're welcome. Like, and there's power in kind of like owning that situation, right? One of the things, Leo rising, folks, one of the things that people are always like, oh yeah, that's really cool. Like, I don't know how the fuck you do that. I call it owning the awkward. Owning the awkward. The elephant in the room, just call it what it is and stroll up to it and offer it a peanut, man. Just go with it. Because what that does is it then also allows everyone else to just talk freely about the freaking elephant with the peanut. Right? You got some peanuts you want to feed the elephant? Let's just talk to him. I named him Jim. Work with it. Whatever. It's a simple thing. It's a small thing, but it's like, yeah, I just fell. Yep, my butt was in the air.
It's honest. It's allowing for honesty. And we kind of talked about that with the fall, but there's definitely an honesty with laughter. And it also opens the gate for more honesty.
Yeah.
I have all the peanuts. All the peanuts for Jim the elephant.
Owning the awkward. Yeah. Well, and what happens in that too is that you end up owning it instead of the awkward owning you. Because have we ever sat in that situation where we're feeling embarrassed for something and then we're silent, or like where we feel like we should say something but we don't, and making it into a joke, stepping into the spotlight and going, "Yep, I found this thing and it's fucked up. What do y'all think?" Like, I am the queen of like dropping something and going, "You're welcome." Like, it just, and that's because you can either let it kind of speak for you or you can speak for it. Yeah. In that situation. And owning the awkward allows you to kind of step up. And in doing that, like, other people start doing it too. And it's like a chain reaction, just like laughter is. Right? It's making it into a joke so that everybody can just be and stop having to worry about necessarily like pretension or what's appropriate. Humor comes out of nowhere a lot of times, and that's why it's funny, right? We don't expect it. So it is very much about like the inappropriate within the appropriate, but there's still a threshold. There's still a moderation on where that's okay and where it isn't. But
I wonder if
owning the awkward is like important on
I wonder if we should talk about death and funeral humor as a good place to, like, because we're coming up on the hour already, just so you know.
Yeah.
And I just wondered if it would be a good place to kind of round that into kind of, because we're trying not to go for too long today, guys, because we've got
We're not. I have a lot of editing to do. I have to get my husband from work, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, so I think that death humor, some people see it as inherently offensive, right? Like, they're instantly offended. And here's the thing is, like, death is something that's very, very raw for all of us, right? We all know someone who we've lost, or someone who maybe we might not even know personally, but we know and have been inspired by. I know a lot of people, like when Prince died, it was like the entire world just shut down because of all the things that he's done, or various other people. So it's not even about necessarily knowing them in person, even sometimes, but there is a rawness to it. And sometimes making a joke of it as seen as an insult. And that's not necessarily always the truth. I think that there is a healthy way to deal with it. A really good example of this would be Order of the Good Death's Caitlin Doughty. She has a way of delivering in humor, but talking about very serious topics and still being very respectful of it. But she's totally someone who's going to toss out death puns and grave jokes and like all of that. And it's a way of, it's a way of self-soothing, like Vile said in chat. And it's also a way of approaching topics that are so taboo that we feel like we're not allowed to approach them, right? So it's the elephant in the room thing again. And I think that death humor, like for you guys that know my channel, since I am a death midwife and I work very heavily with death and grief and mourning kind of energies, there is a sacredness in that sometimes we don't see under that surface. And I think that I think it's really good that now I'm seeing more of it popping up. Like, people are getting more hip to that with the death positive movement. If you guys are not aware of that, go look that up. But with that kind of movement that's happening, people are bringing it into light, and we're finding new ways to talk about it and new ways to learn through that. And it just, it's really, really therapeutic and healing, I think. And it has a lot of potential to be used in that situation to shine a light on things, but the light isn't so bright that it blinds everyone. You know what I mean? That it's so painful. Just like the nursing humor that I talked about earlier. And also, like, here's the thing is, like, one of my favorite things when I lost my father is, like, I would love to tell people about his jokes. I would love to remember, like, funny stories. I tell my people, I tell friends all the time that I meet, or new friends, or whoever will listen. I say my dad was a Southern male who was very animated, and instead of using words, he said sounds in sentences. And what I mean by that is, for instance, there was a time that he was trying to tell me that in the backyard he was using a push mower to mow the lawn, and there was a pothole in the ground, and the lawn bumped into, like, the mower bumped into it, and he got stuck, and he had a hard time pulling it out, right? What he actually said in his rickety chair as he was shaking it, and we didn't know if that chair would last because it was an old one, what he actually said was pantomiming, pushing, was, "Nah, I was in the backyard today, and that damn motherfucker went boom," and then that was the explanation. Okay, so that is hilarious. That is a memory that I do not want to forget, and I want to share with other people. There's also a healing in the jokes about our loved ones, in the funny stories, and the laughs. So I think that should be encouraged.
It kind of keeps not only memory, but it keeps, like, life alive, I think. Like, it's the same way that we tell stories about people. We kind of interplay that with humor and sadness, with the stories that we tell, the memories that we share, the common grounds that we kind of find with other people. It's very connective. It's like remembering who our ancestors were, remembering who we were, who we are becoming, who other people around us are becoming, the situations which mold us and shape us into who we are as people. And it's definitely like that connection, that almost like key to understanding. And I think humor in particular, laughter in particular, gives us a really wonderful common ground that when we can laugh together about certain situations, it's not that it takes away from the gravity of a situation.
Yeah. Well, and that's a side effect. Sorry to interrupt you, but that's a side effect of our culture, of our society. We think if we're pro something, we have to be anti something. And Joy and I have made entire lives about this, multiples, of, like, the us versus them thing, and the dichotomy of that, and having to be black or white, or pro something or anti something. And that's not necessarily the thing. If you're making a joke about something, it doesn't mean you hate it. Yeah. Sorry, carry on.
And it can basically bind life in a way, because it's like a gift. It's like we all honor each other with the gift of stories, with the gift of laughter, with the gift of jokes, with the gift of sharing little pieces, little nuggets of who we are from soul. It's like a real vulnerability and offering of self, and it's offering self with humor, sometimes to take away from the seriousness, sometimes to take away from the difficulty, sometimes to take away from the embarrassment. But there definitely is a spell power, a witch power, and a human power in that kind of giving of self to other people, especially when you can laugh about these things together.
If we would charge an item with laughter, why don't we charge ourselves? Why don't we charge other people with laughter? Why is that not where that stops? Because it's not a tangible thing. What is even tangible? We can go into that whole talk. We don't have time. I was getting there. So think about it that way too, right? Because we always look at it, material wise, like how to kind of thing. Like, well, how to live your life. How about that one? How about that one?
Cool.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do, because we're at an hour already, is I'm going to ask if anyone's got any questions.
Yes.
We wind up, because we are at an hour. I said we were going to be a little bit shorter today because we've both got things that we need to get on doing.
But I'm glad that we did the live.
Yeah.
I'm glad that we got on, because we haven't been on in a while. I actually miss doing lives.
Well, I'm happy to start doing them again if you're freer in the...
That's another thing, guys, is I'm kind of condensing my work. I have a week that I call Creation Week in the first half of the month, and I kind of like just buckle down. I don't do bookings or anything for that week, and I make things, and that allows me to have more free time for the rest of it. So that means that I'll be able to do more lives and things like this with Joey now, instead of chasing deadlines constantly like I have been.
Please do more lives. There you go. Well, next time it will be on Chris's channel, so we'll pick a time and a date and a theme, and it will be on Chris's channel next time.
Oh, it's my mom. Everybody don't bombard my mom, please. Like in terms of like going and adding her and everything. But yes, I'm glad that you are okay and you still have net.
Yes, be safe. We've been thinking about you. Sending laughter energy to people sounds brilliant.
Yes. We laugh to survive.
Off-topic question? Sure. Within reason.
Yeah. I mean, if it gets us into a whole new live, then that's going to be another thing.
Yeah, then you'll have to watch a whole new live to get an answer, which would be annoying.
Good.
Waiting on the questions, sitting on the live.
Waiting on the questions. Everybody appreciate my Vader mug. How about that?
There's some dark side humor.
Pinky out when in doubt. That's how they use the Force.
Was it a long question?
I don't know. Apparently. Yes.
Bridget and the Morrigan. Oh, it's on me then.
Yeah, that's all you. I ain't the kilt. Have fun. I'ma just relax.
No pressure.
This is the most riveting part of the live. You guys are welcome.
Yeah, this is when we're waiting for the question. Well, I mean, it's an hour live. Like, we say it's like a short live, but it's been over an hour.
Here's the thing. Also, to Juxta, because I've seen her say it twice now, that she's been cursed to hiccup when she laughs. You ever think maybe that's your body getting rid of shit?
Yeah. Release.
Yep. I know hiccups hurt, but yeah.
Is it just me, or do they seem to have a where there is smoke, there is fire kind of demand? What with the Morrigan and Bridgie? What do you mean fire? Like,
did I tell the candy bag one? Mom, you're going to have to narrow that down, because if it's about Dad, there's a lot of those. I don't know. I think she's talking about the Morrigan and Breed. Like, if where there is smoke, there's fire.
Honestly, that's far too complex a question for me to answer really simply, but I would say that it's best not to judge any deity by one definition or one feeling or put them into one category. I would say all deity could be dangerous if approached the wrong way, and all deity can be beneficial. It's just experiences. Dad opening the bag as you were heading to the bathroom one night.
I have no idea what she's talking about. I'm sorry. You know what? I'd love to get you on a live sometime soon, and you could just tell the story, because I don't remember what you're talking about.
There you go.
But I'm sure you'll call me after this, and then I'll know.
Yeah. Do they seem to work a lot together? No. The entire time I've been working with a Morrigan, Brigitte has worked with me properly once. They definitely have a sister energy. Morrigan will allow it, kind of thing. Is he thinking that Bridget is the smoke and Morrigan is the fire? I don't think so. I think he's asking if they're difficult goddesses to work with. That was my impression of the question. Yeah. I have a video about Bridget and Morrigan. You can go check that out on my channel. It's there.
Yeah, now I remember it. Sorry.
Do you want to finish with that story then?
I don't remember a lot more of it, but yeah, he was trying to open a candy bag, and my dad was a candy fiend. Like, he had a major sweet tooth, and then he didn't have teeth, and he still had a major sweet tooth somehow. I don't know. But yeah, I think I was trying to go to the bathroom or something. I was walking through the door, and like, you know, those big ones that you get on like Halloween, he had like ripped it, and he ripped it so hard that the candy just went fucking flying, and it flew at me. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, that's really all I remember is like candy flying out the door at me.
Yeah.
I don't know. But anyway, yes, funny things.
Yeah.
All right. So, also it's someone talking about ancestor stuff, which, yeah, I'm adopting and I've recently been able to connect with my ancestors. I'm really excited for more videos working with our ancestors. Yeah, ancestral stuff is like my key thing. That and like death work are my home. To the extent that like I have sessions built around that, and there are videos with Joey and I, with me, that are both built around that. So if you'd like any more of that, check out my channel and see. Also, you guys, there is a playlist of all of the lives that Joey and I have done.
Yeah. We've covered one, a lot.
It was just easier. There's like over 30 something, I think. So yeah.
Okay. So we've answered that question. We've run over a little bit. So I'm going to round foxes. Oh my God. Go read my essay about foxes and trickster energy, because that is such a limited way of seeing fox energy. Right. Okay. I'm good. Are you good, Cris? We are at a good point.
I'm good. I'm good.
Thank you guys for joining us. We're going to round up the chat right now. We are going to be looking at doing some more of these now that we're in a better place to do them. You can always shoot a question or a live thing, suggestion kind of thing. Like, I would really like to hear more about X, Y, or Z. To Cris or I, it's absolutely fine. Just shoot us a message or leave a message down below and I will get to them. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks for being here. I love your faces. Remember to laugh.
Giggle immediately, if not sooner. And that's where can we have a full-blown witch cackle, please? And that's where we're going to end it. So